and record. Oh, turn on my machine.
All right, ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on September 15th, 2021. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Here.
Alderman Patricia Clee,
Here.
Alderman at Large Michael B. O'Brien,
Present.
Alderman at Large Shoshana Kelly,
I'm here.
Alderman at Large Brandon Michael Laws is absent, and Alderwoman Elizabeth Lou,
Here.
and clerk is present.
All right, we have a quorum. Public comment, is there anyone who wishes to address the committee? All right, let's go to communications. The first from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager.
Yes.
Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the request to replace two unmarked vehicles with the 2022 Ford Police Interceptor, the utility vehicle, in an amount not to exceed $83,000, wrong glasses, $503.90. Funding will be through Department 150 Police Department, Fund 81500, Vehicles FY22 Surf.
All right, and I think Deputy is here on this.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I believe Brian Soika, the head of our fleet maintenance,
Oh,
and
okay.
Karen Smith are on for this. I'm here for the language line, sir.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So are they, Karen
hear you.
Smith, are you on the,
Ooh.
are you on Zoom? I mean, it's pretty self-evident, but,
I don't see either one.
Karen Smith was on. Yeah, she's still there. Yeah.
Karen's going, yeah, here we go.
All right, Mr.
Brian
Mayor.
Swick-
Yeah, Karen Smith is there.
yes?
Yes, I'm here, and Brian Swick is to be calling in, the fleet manager,
All
fleet
right,
maintenance manager.
great, thank you.
I am here.
All right, so we're on this police interceptor item.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, Brian Soika, Police Supervisor.
Telephone number.
What questions do you have? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's fairly obvious, but usually we just, you can give like a short explanation of what the purchase is.
Yeah, we're looking to replace two detective units. We have actually two Impalers, and we're replacing them with two utilities, and these are actually going to be detective units with fully lighted equipment inside the vehicle, not outside but inside the vehicle.
All right, and this is funded from SURF, meaning the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund, correct? Yes, it is. All right, any questions, comments? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see you're going to accept communications later in this, and that is will be a motion to MHQ, which I assume that's going to be the lighting portion for these particular cruises. Am I correct?
We are actually doing, they're actually doing all the lighting equipment for those vehicles, and we're purchasing them from them, of course, too.
They're two separate
All
memos.
right. Alderwoman Clee.
I believe those are two separate memos, though, if I'm not correct.
Right,
Yes, they were two separate
and
items.
maybe he doesn't.
The
realize it.
lighting is a separate item from the purchase of the vehicles.
Correct. So we're just on, yeah, I don't know if you have the agenda, but we're just on the $83,000 purchase at this point. All right, any other comments or questions? Alderwoman Kelly.
Yeah, so, a number of months ago, we talked about, the fleet, and there was a comment that you guys looked at hybrid. And I asked that as we continue to replace these, that we would think about looking at hybrid as we try to be more mindful with carbon emissions. Was it looked at for these vehicles?
I actually looked into them briefly. I know this is very new to Ford right now, so I'm trying to get input, a little bit of input after the actually state police of Massachusetts is using these hybrids. So I'm just trying to give it a little bit of time to see how these are working out for them before we actually go forward with anything at this point.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Oh, all right. If all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, another communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the request to replace one Ford Interceptor utility vehicle marked with the 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle in an amount not to exceed $40,619. Funding will be through Department 150 Police Department Fund, 81500 Vehicles, FY22 Surf.
All right. The fleet manager, could you tell us briefly about
Yeah,
this
Brian
item?
Swick. I'm sorry, Brian Swick, Fleet Supervisor. This isn't a marked unit. Fully marked unit is the sergeant's vehicle. So it will be including all new equipment for inside the vehicle except for the MDT and department radio and state radio, because we'll be able to repurpose that into the new vehicle, because it is a redesigned vehicle from going from the older vehicle to the newer vehicle.
All right, and this is coming from Surf again, I see. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have another item from communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, motion to accept, placed on file, and approve a multi-year interpreting service contract with Language Line Phone Services, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $3,500. Funding will be through Department 150, Police Department, Fund 55699, other contracted services.
Deputy, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This contract with Language Line Solutions Incorporated allows us to further attain the chief's goal of having a culturally effective organization. And there are many facets to this, and this falls directly under Language and Communication Access Plan, which is something for years that we have strived to improve. We've been using emergency 911 for interpretations and translations, and we've been told by emergency 911 they can continue to do this on an emergency basis, but for a very in-depth investigation, it is taxing their resources. Currently, NYPD uses this company. NYPD has invested approximately $800,000 to do this. It is an app-based platform. We're going to be using cell phones and iPads that have been donated to the police department. Myself and Lieutenant Pat Hannon came before the Aldermanic Circle, I believe 2020, and you approved a contract through Verizon called the Heroes Project. So the phones, the iPads, and the actual service program are at no charge to us. This $2,500 fee is a one-time unlimited use, which means we can put it on as many devices as we want. This would allow us to do interpretations for approximately 240 different languages, to include American Sign Language. We're very excited about this. We're going to put these devices in the front lobby with our victim advocates, patrol units, detective bureau, and in booking. And right now, we have applied for a grant through Governor Shaheen's office, the Department of Justice Burn Discretionary Funding. We'll find out the end of October if we get it, but they complimented us on the use for this. It's pay-as-you-go. It's approximately $1.90 a minute for the service, so it can be costly, but we have an obligation to the community to, be able to take any call for service despite any barriers we have. And I can entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions, comments? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I applaud you for this. I think there's definitely a need. But looking at that, and I think you know my background, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Could this be, shared with another division? I mean, particularly with fire. let's say they do go to a situation, could be a medical or something like that, where not necessarily an officer may be there at the time. Can it be shared?
Absolutely, sir. This is ideal for police, fire, EMTs, social services, any city, public health, any city entity that is having difficulty making a comprehensive communication due to a language barrier or an impairment of some sort.
Outstanding, good.
Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Okay, you stated 2,500, but I actually said 3,500, so.
Yes, ma'am, the 25, I apologize, you're absolutely correct. The 2,500 is the initial cost to do the unlimited service, and the other $1,000 that we're asking to be appropriated is to actually start to use the translation while we wait to see if we get the grant.
Alderwoman Kelly, excuse me.
Thank you. So you said this is a one-time fee to get started, but it's $1.90 every time you use it?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
where you're hoping the grant money will cover?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I know you talked about it being in the front lobby. I'm just interested in terms of where you guys would use it. Would it be over 911? Would it be during interrogations? Like, how would it?
It would be all-inclusive. So if someone walks into the front lobby, we're gonna have devices and records and reception in order to bring an officer out in order to communicate. If an arrest was made and we need translation services or interpretation services in booking, we're gonna use it in booking. If detectives are working a case and they're going to do a very formal, in-depth interview, it can be used during the interview process while it's all being video recorded. Officers can use it street side. It will be used by our domestic violence victim witness advocates. Any need we have within the agency, or if requested by another agency, we can easily, because we're talking about cell phones, and we can just drive them right over.
I could follow up.
You go ahead.
I mean, I think obviously it makes a lot of sense given some of the priority guides that the department has put out. I guess my concern is a little bit around if you're paying for it each time, there's a really hard, how are you gonna know how much it's gonna cost, and do you know?
Yes. I can give you a ballpark answer. So what we did is from January 2019 to mid-May, when we started to crunch these numbers, we ran the amount of interpretations that we did, and it came out to be 237. Of that, the average time duration was about 43 minutes, and we based those numbers and just did the multiplication on the per minute, and the lowball number I was told we got was about $32,000. We are hoping to use this more and more and more for, we're hoping to use this every day to fully communicate with the community. So we're hoping if we get our maximum ask for the grant, that it would be much higher than the 30,000. And like I said, Senator Shaheen's office, they were very excited about this idea.
All right, Alderman Harriet Gathright.
I'm excited that, that Nashua PD has decided to go in this direction so that you can be responsive to all of Nashua because of, the multi-generations here. But what I would really like to see is that you hire people into that clerk position, okay, that can do some of this. I don't feel as though we should be paying a company when we have people that live in the city that are capable of doing things of that nature.
You're talking
And I
about the
know-
receptionist position?
Yeah, exactly. Those that take the calls. So I would like to see that happen and that be a part of the future for Nashua PD, that you're looking to really diversify, which I know you are as far as the police department in terms of the police. But I would like to see that internal piece because I've been there several times and I know what it looks like. And I'm just saying it should be more diverse because this is a city of welcoming and diversity.
Yes. I am in agreement with you, which is why we're striving for this.
Yeah.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is an incredible idea, and I'm sure that you've thought of and tried other alternatives. I do have some anxiety about the average of 43 minutes $32,000, hoping to get a grant, but not knowing whether or not we're going to get a grant, and we're going to commit into doing something like this without knowing how we're actually going to pay for it if you don't get the grant. That's the big thing that, I mean, I would have rather see it come through once we know we get the grant, but then I know that doesn't always happen that way. We have to take advantage of the things that we have. So if this came to 32,000, you're only asking for 3,500 to kind of get this started, but then you're going to have this unfunded, I don't want to say mandate, but you're going to have this unfunded bill that's going to be coming through. Are you going to be coming back to us and asking for 32,000 or?
Well, that's not our plan. I don't foresee it. First of all, we are obligated, whether or not we go with this, to communicate with every member of the community. And we all, I know you know that. Using emergency 911, I remember vividly being a patrol officer, and that was, if you ask me, well, what do you do? We call emergency 911. We have been striving at diversity. Currently, we have officers and employees that speak Spanish, Portuguese, Cantonese, French, American Sign Language, and assuming the hire goes through, an advocate can also speak a form of, it was explained to me as Costa Rican. It's not American Sign Language, but it's Costa Rican Sign Language, and she is in the process of also learning American Sign Language. So that is the vast majority of languages that we do encounter. But out of this 237, and I have the different languages here, I'd share it with you if you like through email, or I can read it if you'd like. But the vast majority of the languages I just mentioned, but there are, obviously, we have a very culturally diverse community, and it's not going to catch everything. If we don't do this, if we don't do this at all, we still have an obligation to try to get those interpretations. And what we have been doing for major cases is we have to subcontract out of our budget to a company and have an interpreter come up from Concord, Manchester, Boston, depending on how unique the dialect may be, and those are extremely costly. The benefit of this is once we sign the contract, we are under no obligation to use it moving forward. Meaning, if 6 months from now we can't use it, then there's no more service charges. We can end the contract, or it can just sit in limbo until we have the funding for it.
May I follow up?
Yes.
I appreciate that. That actually makes me feel a little bit better. But I know that hospitals use certain types of interpretations and so on. Do they have people that they call up that work there, or do we know how they do it versus what this is going to be? I don't know what the cost of their program is either, but I guess I'm asking more of, this has all the bells and whistles, and it's wonderful, and I think it's really worthwhile, and as my colleagues have pointed out, it's important. I live in a very diverse ward where sometimes it is very difficult to communicate with people that I don't speak that language. So for you to have something like this, I know it's going to make your job easier because you're going to be in my ward and so on. So I do appreciate that. I just have a little bit of anxiety of this unfunded, where's the money going to come from? This $32,000. I know you said we don't need to worry about it, but we do, because at the end of the year, are you going to come back and say, it ended up costing us $32,000, and not that $32,000 in the grand scheme of things isn't worth every penny of it. I don't mean that. I'm just saying is that we have to come up with the money at some point.
Mr. Mayor?
It's
Yeah.
not 32,000, it's 3,000.
Alderwoman, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but let's take it into what we're currently doing today.
Okay.
Right now, today, if you said, well, what would you do? Because this is happening on a daily basis. We would have to either use emergency 911 if it was for an emergency, or if it was for a more in-depth investigation, we are going to subcontract a company, and that usually can take, depending on the issue, a couple of days. And we muddle through, and at times we've used family members in an emergency situation just so we can take control of the situation. And that any investigator, it's kind of common sense, it is not an ideal situation to use a family member or loved one to interpret. And we understand that, and we avoid it at all costs. But that's currently what would happen. We would use one of our own officers or employees, we would call to other agencies, we would call to Manchester, we would call down to a more diverse agency like Boston, and we can do that, but these are very time-consuming. So if we didn't do this, and I understand when you talk about the unfunding, but right now, we have an obligation to do it regardless. So the plan of the captain of the Detective Bureau that did all the research on this was, until we understand what the standing is with the grant, we will scrutinize this as much as possible. We're not going to turn people away, of course, but we're going to use this for the most dire need. Hoping to get the grant, then we can use it, is hopefully, 3 times the amount and really surpass this number.
Thank you. Just one more follow-up? Sir?
Yes.
Thank you. So if I heard you right, you said that you have to bring in consultants and hire contractors and so on to come in when you have to do certain investigations. It could take a couple of days. So the money that you would save off of that would equal and take care of this. So you have that already budgeted, is that correct? So you may not actually need any more money because you're not going to be using those services.
We
Do I
have it-
understand that correctly?
We have it budgeted under, we don't know what it's going to look like, and we have the average. It falls under our investigative account. So if we had someone that need the use of American Sign Language, we would have to contract with a company. They would send the interpreter down, and then, they bill by the minute, hour, half hour, what have you, and then we would end up spending that amount of money out of our existing budget. We have been conducting these interpretations for decades and decades within our own budget. To my knowledge, and I'm only going by my experience, I don't recall a time that we've come to City Hall asking for more money for translation and interpreting services. We've always been able to manage it within our own budget. This grant, the plan is to increase what we've had and not just use it on a limited basis, to increase it. So you're having a ward meeting and you contact us and say, would it be possible to have an officer come by with the app because I have someone from this country that could really benefit. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to attend the meeting meaningfully. Yes, we can do that. Chief Rhodes calls and says, would you guys be able to come? We're at this incident and we're having trouble with interpretation. Yes, of course we can do that. And we want to increase that number, as opposed to now, if it's not directly a criminal investigative matter, we might say, well, I don't have anyone that speaks that dialect or that language, therefore I can't contract a company to come to your ward meeting and I can't help you, Chief Rhodes. And does that make sense what I'm saying? I don't look at it as big of a concern because we're already doing this now with our existing budget. The grant will allow us to do more. Without the grant, we'll continue to do status quo. We'll meet the needs of the city within the budget.
Yes, yes and no. I feel like you said that you're going to be able to handle it within your budget because you're already doing something of a different ilk, kind of, by contracting them out. I always look at that we're not going to get the grant. We always hope to get the grant, but I always look at not getting the grant. So
Sure.
I will just this time hope we get the grant. So, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. When do you expect to hear about the grant, or when is the grant being?
End of October. We expect to hear by the end of October.
All right. And your reduced trial time extends through?
From the time that the contract is signed, we can immediately download the application and we can start using it immediately. Once the contract goes through, we can start using it immediately. So let's say sometime this September until the end of October, you're talking about roughly, and I'm estimating a 4 to 5 week period maximum.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say, did you have something?
Yeah,
Alderman Harry Cathright.
just a question, just only because I'm just trying to understand this. When it says that the funding will be through Department 150 Police Department, and it gives the fund number, that means that there's already money there?
Yes, we already received different grants. If Karen Smith is
Okay.
still on, she can explain exactly what that account is, but I know you know that the
yeah.
amount of grants that we have, there's
I
already
know.
something
I
there.
know you
Yes.
guys do a lot.
Yes.
I just
Yep.
want to make sure that, because I think we're kind of worried about where are we gonna get the money from when you might already have the money? No?
My understanding, not to do what we want to do.
Not to
Again,
do
if,
what you wanna do.
I'm not coming here to ask for this program because for the past several years, we've been unable to communicate with the community.
Right.
I'm saying we would like this program, and we applied for this grant because we want to continue to attain this vision that the chief has and that we support of a culturally effective organization. And there are many facets to it. This is just having a communication plan is one of about 7 facets that we're focusing on. And this actually is a major step in the right direction of allowing us to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you for your thorough, explanation here. I do share some of the concerns around, do we get the grant, do we don't get the grant? Does the grant come year after year, or is it a one-time grant and then you still have to find room in your budget? I don't want to add more administrative tasks for people, but I think I would feel better if in the beginning we had a little bit more, like once a month, what's being happened, because as you roll this out, you don't have the grant and you're not sure how often your officers are using it.
Correct.
So do you have a plan to kind of keep
Yes.
eyes on that?
Yes, until we understand the status of the funding through the grant, we are going to scrutinize when we use it. We're going to use it in the most, I hate to use the word dire circumstances, knowing, and again, we're talking dollars and cents, so we'll be blunt, knowing we're getting the most bang for our buck with this program. That doesn't mean if we are in a situation or responding to a call where there is a language barrier, that we're going to say, this is not worth using this application, therefore we are going to just drive away. We're going to continue to do exactly what we do today. We are going to contact Emergency 911, other agencies. We are going to find someone in the immediately that can assist us with that. But because that can be time consuming, there can be a time delay, this is something that we can, and again, I want to make sure I'm wording this correctly. I'm not coming here saying we are having a problem communicating with our residents, and without this, we can't do our jobs. We're saying we're doing it. We can do it much better with this application, and the goal isn't let's communicate better. The goal is the culturally effective organization. Again, I just say it's one of the facets. The reason I haven't gone through the others, and I'd be more than happy to, is this is out of the 7 facets, this is the only one that applies to what I'm here for tonight. But there's it's a multifaceted approach to how to be more culturally effective.
If I could respond?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I applaud you for bringing this forward, especially knowing that there are other police departments who have used this and it's been effective. And if it can help in situations where someone's unable to interact because of a language barrier, I'm behind that. I just, as a teenager who lived through when cell phones started and a mom, I've seen before we had unlimited, all of a sudden you're doing text and you get your bill and you go, oh, when you're paying per. So that is just the anxiety that I have, is just making sure that you guys have the effective tools to do this. But we don't end up in a situation where, we run up a lot of money in a month.
Mm-hmm. I totally understand. I've seen, over my career, I've seen some very staggering bills from translation services and I'm talking not day-to-day, these 43-minute, I'm talking a 3-hour interview with a hearing impaired person where we needed the services of American Sign Language, and we're spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and we will always do that. Without this, we're going to continue to do it because we have an obligation.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. I just want to be sure I understood Alderman Gathrights' question. This is being charged to other contracted services, and you have funding, you have appropriations for that type of thing. I imagine that other contracted services are typically somewhat unplanned, that's why they're called other contracted services. It's kind of a catch-all. So I would think that you do have funding for this in your budget. you have some funding for it.
We do not have,
This fund 55699,
yes.
it's called other contracted services. So you have, you have some funds there. I'm not saying that it would necessarily cover it all.
And that's where I'm going, this approach and this idea is not something that was earmarked under those funds. So I can't say, no, there's not a cent within our budget to pay for any of this. I'm saying we would not be able to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish with what we currently have because it was not, we didn't apply for a grant for this. It didn't exist.
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Smith has got her hand raised. I think she wants to add to the conversation.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Smith,
We do the room first.
you're,
Thank you.
you are on mute, sorry.
Yes. Yes, Karen Smith. If I can just comment that the 2,500 and the 1,000 that we set aside is, consider it like a seed to the grant. And yes, Deputy Testaverde has mentioned that grants do look to see that initiative, and that is encouraged. Now, I don't know if the grant would end up paying for the 2,500 or if that is something that's kind of our investment in this. The budget will accommodate paying for the 2,500, and then we did put an allotment of the 1,000 to bring us into the first quarter, if you will, of this program. After finance, this is a multi-year contract. It will need to go through the Board of Aldermen. So that time frame is still going to, if this is approved, going to take time. So we're probably going to be running right along nicely with hopefully the approval from the grant program. Again, it's an appropriation, so I don't even know if it's really considered a grant, but any funding that we could receive would definitely be something that we would need because the amount of money that we have for this type of transcriptions is small. 2,500 and the 1,000 is about what we're looking at for our budget program. And we would definitely need the dollar amount that we're looking at for a future program, as Deputy has explained, is much greater than the parameters that we have for a working budget. I hope that helps.
All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Next, a communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Agent.
Mr.
Alderman
Mayor.
Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a contract with SCS Field Services of Reston, Virginia, to construct an expansion of the landfill gas collection system in the amount of $457,720, pending bond approval. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund Bond Activity Landfill Gas System Expansion.
And I believe we have Mr. Boucher here.
It's Superintendent Jeff LaFleur.
Oh,
Mayor,
sorry.
No problem. I know the waste throws people off. This is an expansion of our gas expansion, as it says. It's we're going to extend our main header vacuum into the brand new Phase 3 landfill. It's going to also include 7 new horizontal gas collection wells and 6 leachate cleanout pipes to vacuum. This is part of our operating plan and part of DES's. We have to do this per our operating plan.
Questions, comments? So could you get in that truck behind you and just drive it away?
I'd love to right now, but
No? All right. You could do a little demonstration for us right now.
right.
All right, no questions that I see. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Next communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the CMOM implementation Phase 2 in an amount not to exceed, I missed the whole proof. I approve the engineering consulting contract with Hazen and Sawyer of Manchester, New Hampshire, for the CMOM implementation Phase 2 in amount not to exceed $2,600,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, SRF loan activity, CMOM Phase 2 pending approval.
Now, Mr. Hudson is here on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this contract is for the CMOM program, which stands for Capacity Management, Operation, and Maintenance. And it has to do with our wastewater and stormwater system. We are required to implement this plan as part of our permitting. In 2018, the Hazen and Sawyer started this process. They developed a plan. We sought funding approval from DES, and it was split into two phases. The first phase, 2.6 million, this phase, 2.6 million. During the first phase, we completed efforts such as completing CCTV inspection of pipes, identifying what needed to be fixed and replaced. As part of that, we found 11 pipes needing full replacement, 76 locations where we had to make point repairs, dig up a pipe and fix just one spot. And we found 320 pipes that required lining, which we did under a separate contract. In this arrangement, this firm kind of works as an extension of our staff, providing engineering support for the maintenance of these systems, and it helped us do a number of important things. So we bring forward the second phase for your review and consideration.
Alderwoman Clee.
Yes, I don't actually have a question for Mr. Hudson. It was just clarification. When the clerk read the dollar amount, it should be $2,600,000 and not $2,600,000.
Correction noted.
And I'm fine with what Mr. Hudson had to say.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say
Excuse
aye.
me.
Oops,
Mr.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson, who is the loan through? Who is the loan through?
So the loan is with State of New Hampshire. Actually, it's implemented through DES. We do work and then close a loan, and this loan currently is pending Governor and Council approval. But it's on the list of DES's projects, and we fully expect that to be approved in the near future.
And just a couple follow-ups. Is this project contingent on getting the loan approved?
Yes, that's how we drafted the motion. And these loans are similar to if we were going to bond work. The benefit of this type of program, which benefits the system over a long period of time, is borne out over time as part of the loan repayment. So yes, this is contingent upon that being approved.
Do you happen to know the interest rate? It must be favorable.
I don't happen to know it. It is favorable. These loans are very, very competitive, and that's why a lot of communities, including Nashua, pursue them.
Thank you. I'm all set.
All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the rebuild of a raw water pump by First Electric Motor Services, Inc. of Woburn, Massachusetts, in the amount of $43,541. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Account Classification 54 Property.
All right, now I think Mr. Boucher is up.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Dave Boucher, Wastewater Superintendent. This is the second of 4 wet weather facility raw water pumps, motors that we're going to send out to rebuild. This one's been sent out, went to First Electric. What they do is they break it down, inspect it, make sure that it can be rebuilt. And this is the quote for the rebuild, which includes rewinding the stator, testing of it, all new seals and new cables. They'll also deliver it. And then we'll have 2 more motors to go in this particular facility.
Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and approve a change order with Sunshine Paving Corporation of Hudson, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $766,725 for the paving of additional roadways. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineer, Fund, Bond, and Trust, Activity Paving, Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Bond, Activity, Sewer Rehab.
I think we're back to Mr. Hudson.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Sunshine Paving was the low bidder on both of our paving contracts this year. We bid out an arterial and a residential contract. This is a proposed change order to the arterial contract. As part of this year's paving program, as is the case, often there was a number of roads that we couldn't complete for various reasons, whether needing, finding out we needed utility work that we didn't expect or other things like that. So this proposal is to add additional roads offsetting that over 1 mile that we couldn't do with an additional 3.4 miles. This, as I said, the Sunshine is working through completing the currently contracted work, and when they meet certain milestones, then we will award this additional work for these additional streets.
All right. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. So the question that I have is that you said that there were some roads that we were unable to do because of utility work and so on. Does that mean that that list that sits on the site, there are going to be some streets that will not get done? And if so, is it possible for us to get a list of those? So we can talk to the constituents that have been watching that list to see their roads get, to get paved, so.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We will amend or post a deferred list, and it's not that those won't be done in the near future. It's just for whatever reason we ran into a hiccup, so they couldn't be done, promptly this year. So yeah, we will provide that information. Unfortunately, we do our best planning we can, but there's always changes. There's always roads that get deferred, and so those people are disappointed. But then we add roads where people weren't expecting it, and so they're happy and benefit from it. So it's always an evolving thing, but yes, we will make public those roads that need to be deferred.
Just one more, and I truly appreciate that. I thank that very much, but I think all of us as aldermen have heard this. Why are they doing this road over that road? I have the answers to those questions. That's not a problem. It's just that when people see that their road is on there and they get that excitement. So I think as an alderman, I truly appreciate the heads up so we can kind of counteract it before that phone call comes. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alderwoman Lou.
Is this coming out of streets? Or,
So this is funding that's already been bonded. It's out of the paving bond. So it's funding that's remaining that's previously been authorized.
oh, it's all bond?
Yeah, it's all previously authorized bond money.
Thanks.
And I should note, we will be coming soon. We're 5 years into what was envisioned as a 10-year paving program. So we will be back. This is our final year of this paving program, or of the 5th year of the bonding that we secured. So we'll be back in the near future seeking future funding for the program.
All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item from
Thank
Kelly
you.
Parkinson, Purchasing Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, placed on file, and approve the request to enter into a new postage meter lease agreement with Pitney Bowes for fiscal years 2022 through 2024 in an amount not to exceed $6,000.30. Funding will be through Department 179 Library, Fund 55607, postage and delivery motion, postage and delivery.
Ms. Parkinson? Are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. This is for the library, right?
It is for the library. It's a replacement postage meter for their existing meter that came up for renewal. So rather than renew the old equipment, they got a new lease, like for like, for an additional 5 years.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item from, again, Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager.
Okay, there being no objection, Mayor Donches accepted the communication and placed it on file. There being no objection, Mayor Donches suspend the rules to allow for communications received after the agenda was prepared. So, Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the request to replace 4 marked vehicles with the 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle with MHQ Inc. in an amount not to exceed $186,084.
Ms. Smith? Or someone from the PD? No, I don't have that. That wasn't,
That was the,
I didn't get it. They didn't put it on the desk here. But there's no, that is accepted under a suspension of the rules. But is there someone from the PD still on?
I am here, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay, good.
Brian Swica
Pardon?
may not be here, but I can help you.
Yeah, just give us a brief explanation, please.
I am sorry, I am here.
Okay.
Yes, Brian can answer anything technical you might have, or Brian, you want to give a description?
Yes, we're going to be replacing 4 marked patrol vehicles. 2 of them are Ford Crown Victorias, and 2 of them are Ford utilities. This is going to include the vehicle and all the new equipment because we're changing from an older vehicle to the new redesigned Ford utility. And we will be repurposing the department radio, the state radio, and the MDT into the new vehicle.
All right. Alderman Harriet Gathright.
What's the Crown Vic, what's the year's model for these vehicles in the Ford utility?
The 2 Ford Crown Victorias are 2011 vehicles, and the other 2 utilities is one's a 2018 and one is a 2019.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. Were these 4 on the SURF schedule?
Yes, they are.
Okay. This is the first I've heard of these. Did we get a late email? Thank you. I'm all set.
Yeah,
Alderman Harriet Gathright.
yeah, my only question is, typically, like the Ford utility can you tell me what type of vehicle that is? Ford utility,
What the Ford utility is?
Yeah,
It's like an Explorer. It is an Explorer, but Ford does not call it an Explorer. They call it a Ford Utility
okay,
Interceptor. It's designed to do what we use it to do.
all right. So, 2018, 2019, and we're in 2021. Is that the normal span that you would keep that utility vehicle? I'm just curious. Why would you be?
On the 2018, we keep it roughly 2.5 years. And the 2019, we'll be doing the same thing. But it's when we actually purchased it is where it came out to the mileage. We try to shoot for 100,000 miles before we trade them in because we see a lot of issues. And the vehicles are out of warranty at that point. And both those, the 2018 and the 2019, should be definitely over 100,000 by the time we actually take possession of the new vehicles. And including the 2 Crown Victorias too.
Okay, So typically, you keep vehicles for 100,000 miles.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think this is the first time I've heard that since I've been an alderman, but thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Just a quick.
Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. Was this, just why did this come so late? Because I see that purchasing processed it in August. And I'm always uncomfortable when when I have to make a decision to spend money without looking. Any idea why? Did it just,
Mr. Mayor, could I speak to that?
Yeah, please do.
I apologize, the scanner ate my original request for finance. So between Kelly and I, we got it through. So I apologize.
I see, so something got lost in,
Yes. The letters made it through, but my cover letter did not.
thank you.
And one last,
Alderman Harriet Gathright.
I think it was Officer Brian. Can you spell your last name for me so I can make sure I'm correct with this?
It is, I'm not an officer, but my last name is Sojka, Sojka.
And what is your title?
Fleet supervisor.
Fleet supervisor.
I'm in charge of the fleet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Did we vote? I don't think we voted.
No, we didn't vote.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And there is, from Alderman Harriet Gathright, is there a motion to accept and place on file the last communication regarding change order for public health renovation?
No,
No?
doesn't say that. We vote, and that was,
Well, could you make that motion?
make the motion for
To
what?
accept and place on file the last communication?
Okay, I make the motion to accept and place on file the last communication.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Unfinished business, we don't have any. New business resolutions, we don't have any. New business ordinances, there are none. Record of expenditures. Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Mr. Mayor, a motion that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinance pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from August 27th to September 8th, 2021.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. General discussion. Any general discussion? Public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the Finance Committee? Remarks by Alderman? Any remarks by Alderman? Alderwoman Lou.
Thank you. I'd just like to address our discussion from the meeting last night, and I'm sorry, pardon me. Point of order.
What's the point of order?
I have the floor. I don't expect people to be groaning while I'm speaking.
While we're addressing this.
Well, I didn't cut you off.
I'm asking for you to call Alderman Gathright to order.
Just go ahead,
Excuse me.
please.
No, I won't. Thank you, I'm all set.
All right. Alderwoman Clee.
Yes, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I apologize here. I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting adjourned.
All right, there's a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
At 7:54.